Chapter 61. Revenge, 6, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. Revenge, 6, as such, she cut off the woman's arm. Seeing that it was the main dish, she tried to slowly enjoy it as much as possible. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the two preceding guys were just practice targets. It seemed, she roughly learned from the previous experience of how to torture and delay death as much as she could. After that, she arrived at the legs. Clumsily, she began to thrust her dagger down onto the thigh area. She may be desperate, swept away in rage and madness, but she didn't hurry. With her reddened eyes, she began to make a mess out of the Wind Magician's body. SP. Spare me. PL. Please. Please. Uni would have thought the same. Save her. Right. To stop. I'm sorry. No. I Apollo. In the midst of her speech, the dagger sliced across her face. It seemed Ahayan didn't want to hear Mina's voice as she sliced it into her face again. After cutting off all her fingers, afterwards, she began to plunge the dagger onto her chest. In the end, she didn't penetrate it that deep. Just painful enough, so that it can eat away at the flesh of the magician. Ha 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 ha. As if excited for being able to exact sweet revenge, she plunged the dagger down in wild laughter. It felt similar to watching Hei-An in the past. Looking at Hei-An, she shyly looked away in embarrassment. SP. Spare. Die. Mayuni's archnemesis. As such, after a few hours, screams could still be heard throughout as her voice began to quiet down. Vice versa, Ahayan's breathing became heavy and more rough. With exhaustion suddenly overtaking her, she nearly collapsed when trying to stand up, causing me to quietly advise her. You are a human. I understand, Savior. It wasn't a sudden question and answer exchange. Though, I may not know the mechanisms that lie within evolving from a human to a monster, but thinking back to Hei-An. The will to be on the side of monsters allowed her to change species, becoming a monster. What we needed though, was Ahayan to remain as a human. If she were wanting to join, something absurd might happen again, so I reminded her that she was human. As soon as I finished saying, Ahayan's equipment began changing. Evolution. It seems that even humans can accumulate experience from killing other humans. Of course, I haven't checked if it was as efficient as earning experience from killing a monster, especially with the example of Hei-An. Perhaps, you're given a class based on your experience. It might be an abnormal growth, but she needs to grow as a human, so we can continually receive help from her. Savior. Ahayan, who had finished changing classes, began to look at me with a grand smile. When I wondered what class she had obtained, it was then that Ahayan spoke. I became an apostle. Savior's apostle. It seems that the class that Ahayan had changed to was a special class. Since she had changed classes through an uncommon way, I thought that she at least would attain a slightly different class. It seems that she attained a class related to this encounter. It was definitely affiliated with the magician class. Pagan. That was the class title that Ahayan had newly obtained. As expected, it was of the magician type, but there was in name, at least in similarities to the dark priests. Of course, since she recently acquired it, I cannot determine the positives and negatives to this class so far. Yet, it was definitely a first that I had heard of regarding this class. I was somewhat anticipating how she'll grow in the future. Good job. Kariak. Patting Ahayan on the shoulder once, I soon moved on. Ahayan was reverently elated, as she was smiling. Since she has a class of the priest denomination, she shouldn't be rejected like before in the past. No, she would rather be welcomed, I thought. After walking over to the back of the dungeon master's room, the treasure room was within my line of sight. There were a lot of artifacts and treasures that were buried here by the ancient soldiers in the past. The item I must have is of course the Covenant Ring. Walking towards the treasure room, Ahian and the rest of the green skins started to follow along. Slowly opening the door, a great coffin welcomed me. It was a fairly small coffin considering the ancient warrior that was here. Approaching and opening it, many treasures could be seen within. Of course amongst them, there was one that looked quite appealing. The most notable one was of course the dual Covenant Rings. Covenant Ring. Imbued feature that allows communication among two targets. A forgotten ancient magic. The rings that the ancient warrior Dodrak and his lover had equipped daily. Mana +2, since the green skins had not much interest in accessories anyways, so I will be the one to equip it. The remaining one will be given to Ahian. Since I had to continuously communicate with her from afar. Take it. Throwing the ring over, Ahian promptly caught it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Blushing, she kneeled before me. As if not pleased with this, I could sense the glares targeted at Ahian by Heian, but it couldn't be helped. As such, I began to distribute the items. It may be obvious, but the authority to distribute the items was in the hands of the chief. Although the guys were running around with weapons in glee, they were not pleading for weapons nor were they claiming ownership of it. But, there was no question that we needed to prepare one for Black Spear. Since he had predominantly utilized the spear, I threw him a spear that was stuck on the wall, causing him to be extremely pleased. Ancient Spear. This is the spear that was used by a nameless spearman under the command of the ancient warrior. This nameless spearman would be buried together with his spear. It was used for a lifetime once the ancient warrior had died. Dexterity +1, it was very ambiguous to label it as rare, but despite that, the ability was nice. My thanks. I'll use it well. It seems that he'll probably use that spear as a javelin, but it does not matter. There are none in the Blood Dagger clan that uses a spear anyways. When I realized that it wasn't just this nameless soldier that was buried, a pile of weapons began to emerge from within the place. There were so many common and uncommon weapons that it was impossible to count. And among those, a bow that could be labeled as rare was handed over to MEV. Although it wasn't an item that came from the coffin, it was a bow that was acquired from an intermediate boss in this dungeon. Just like how I obtained my sword from the dungeon master. It seems that a human archer was using it, so I just allowed MEV to take it. The other weapon was held by the goblin sister with the long sword. Funny enough, originally, I was planning on giving this to Gark, but it seemed that he was more proud of using the sword of Youngdan. Upon receiving the sword from the treasury, he then promptly transferred it over to his younger sister. Although there were a lot of decent weapons, we couldn't carry all of them back. And a few of these rare items will be given to Ahian to advertise about this dungeon back at Legius. Shield of Dawn. A shield that will emit heat when blocking an enemy's attack. It was used by a nameless friend who knew the name of the ancient warrior. Vitality +2, especially handing this item over caused me to cry blood, but it had to be done. In order to attract advanced, intermediate, and even beginner adventurers to Legius to fatten the city, thus completing Black Spear's quest. Equipping the Covenant Ring on, I began imbuing it with my mana. It was to explain the function of this ring. Naturally, Ahian's ring also faintly responded in reply. It was a little funny seeing how she had put her ring on the third finger of the left hand. I slowly recalled what I wanted to say in my head. You will take these items to Legius. Yes. Huh. What? Do you mean? Her expression was that of despair. It seems that she was so taken aback by this that she forgot about the Covenant Ring being currently on. If I would have not said this, she definitely would have tried to follow us back to our tribe. Or maybe she was worried that she would be abandoned, as she began to bite her nails and tremble. You will take these items to Legius, and you only have to say that you had acquired these items to the other humans. She would understand what I'm saying, but she will probably be asked a lot of questions. The process of how she was the sole survivor of the expedition. Information regarding the dungeon as a whole. It doesn't matter if she hands over these items, even to those of authority in the city, or sell it at an appropriate price. Since there is some law in the city, she would at least be safe from theft. Of course, the fact that she met the Savior or that she is in affiliation with a monster was of course omitted. As long as she was able to lure humans here using whatever means possible, it was fine. I understand. May I ask as to why you request me of this, Savior? I couldn't think of proper words. So, I just roughly stated. Offerings. Instantly, Ahian brightened. The fact that she was not abandoned, and was able to do something for me brought her extreme joy. Thanks to that, it seems that my trust in her had increased, but since I was somewhat worried, I constructed a few conditions. Obviously, the first one is not to say anything regarding the weapon merchant. By acting as if she didn't know me would be convenient. Secondly, the fact that she would have her covenant ring constantly activated. Unless there's a special exception, she must have it activated at all times. By injecting mana into the ring, I understood that as an artifact, it didn't require that much mana. It seems that it's based on a system where it can last for quite a long time, with a limited amount of mana, assuming you do not block the flow, of course. With the second condition, Ahian's expression became extremely pleased, even making me wonder that possibly she wanted it more than me. And the third condition is that she would come when I call. Of course it would be difficult for her to imagine. For Ahian not to come when I call her, since we are connected together by the covenant rings, but since I should see her a few times, I laid down the condition. Likewise to the second condition, she wanted it more than me. As such, I gradually nodded my head and began heading out of the dungeon. Erasing the traces of battle here was a preceding priority. I began pushing the limit of my mana to the sword, causing flames to erupt from ancient flame. I began sweeping away the room with the flames. This room that was able to help someone exact their revenge, comfort the aspirations of a clan, and allow one the opportunity to become stronger. Goodbye. TL afterward, how could you not take that shield? I'd greedily take it and give it to the goblin sister. And, I think it's the equivalent of watching a movie in theaters with popcorn for us, sigh lol. Comment. For those wondering how to check my status, you can check the site's Discord and ask in general chat. Anyhow, thanks for all that were patient. I appreciate the love and support. It's why I shortened my hiatus. TL note. New week, and new chapters. It's either 3 or 5 releases for this week, but I'll try and get it to 5, hoping these papers won't take as long. PR afterward, I can't believe the green skins watched her for that long torturing someone. I guess it was their equivalent of a TV drama show. Chapter 62. You are listening at novelfull.audio. We traveled slowly back to Black Spears village. Since I had nothing much else to do, I decided to learn a little bit more concerning the Covenant Ring. The Covenant Ring wasn't just a simple communication magic that allowed transmission from afar. For example, if Ahian were to inject mana into the ring, she is then able to continuously send messages over. In other words, the line will be turned on regardless of whether or not the receiving end replies or not. Whether I'll listen to it or not is up to me, but even if the line is not connected, her voice will naturally be sent over to this side. Of course, if I did not want to listen to her, I could simply block her. The amusing part about this Covenant Ring was that if she were to inject mana in, even if you did not meant to say this over the line, her voice will be heard regardless. In short, not only could I hear what she says in her mind, but I can also hear her actual conversations as well. This ring was truly similar to that of an eavesdropping device. But sadly, all she could hear was my voice in return. It was a bit disappointing that she couldn't hear the conversations around me, but at least I can find out about the situation of the city through her, and evaluate the current mood, so I thought that it was relieving in the end. So, to conclude, she was being monitored by me, and not the other way around. Of course, she couldn't confirm whether I was listening to her or not, but that aspect itself will be her caller. She probably didn't care whether she was given a caller or not. Rather, she might be pleased just listening to my voice. As such, after we walked for quite some time, the road to Legius appeared, and soon it was time for a Hyan to separate from us. If there was a problem it lay with a Hyan who was very sad about it. Savior. Despite having already explained in advance, it was not easy watching her reluctantly stand there for some time. With a bag behind her back, tears dribbling down her face, this reaffirmed how anxious and scared she was at parting ways. On the other hand, Hye-yeon smiled as she was truly happy with her departing to Legius. I would have liked to stroke a Hyan's head, but deciding that it might cause her lingering feelings towards this side, I decided to send her off with an encouraging remark. Patience. Soon, we will be together. I will wait. Until the time you call. I will be waiting. As if touched from my words, she grabbed her covenant ring tightly, causing Hye-yeon, who was smiling just a moment ago, to now start frowning. Noting her reaction like this, I decided to give her a useful accessory the next time I obtain one. Make sure to wear the glove before entering the city. Yes, I understand. Since there may be a problem with the ring being exposed. I told a Hyan that it might be best to hide it from the view of others, in which case she agreed while nodding. Whether she was going to take it off temporarily or hide it with a bandage, the choice was up to her. As such, while she was walking towards the city, she turned and looked back several times before finally disappearing into the horizon. It seems that she was really relying on me. So much so, that she had obtained a class related to that matter. Since it might have made it harder for her to leave if I had said anything else, so I turned away and departed in that manner. Is it really alright to send that human woman alone? There are many precious weapons. The warriors of the village would have been thrilled. After everything had finished, Black Spear broached the subject with a hint of uneasiness. That is so, Black Spear. In order to fatten the city, the weapons she brought alone is quite enough. Immediately following tomorrow, humans will begin to gather towards the city, since humans are weak to weapons as much as the greenskins. Blood Dagger. If you are so sure, then I will lay my trust in you. I will repay your trust. Hearing my voice full of confidence, Black Spear nodded with a bright head. From his expression, I can tell that he has complete trust in me. Chattering away with my clan members, we continued to walk along. At this time, she should be talking with the city guards and meeting the authorities. After a while, I decided to inject a bit of mana into the covenant ring out of curiosity, and began to hear a Hyan's voice. I am the survivor of the ancient warrior's dungeon. I would like to create a logbook regarding the dungeon, clear and distribute the items I have obtained. To whoever. Thank you very much. T would be. Anything is okay. Thank you. Yes. I am the only survivor. The clan master and the wind magician Mina had rescued my life, so it is only I that have returned alive. Sniff. Just from her voice, I could tell how the situation was flowing. It seemed she was doing well as expected. While selling away the clan master and the wind magician, she was acting quite nicely. If I did not know of the situation, I might have believed in her words as well. Since she was in those bastards' laps as she endured her pitiable life, I had assumed that she would excel at hiding her emotions, but it was much more than I had anticipated. As for the item distribution, please do as you like. I don't have the ability to protect it. And it is very burdensome. Yes. Class. My class is affiliated with the priest group. Originally I was a magician, but coincidentally, I had changed classes in this run. It was an impressive decision to distribute the items considering she couldn't protect it. Hearing that she was being asked about her class, it seems she has reached the recruitment office. Whether it was a magician or a priest, her class was quite an ambiguous one, but informing them that it is of the priests was a fine choice. Definitely, a Haiyan as a magician might be useless, but a priest was always valuable and notable. I wasn't sure just how much efficiency her class as a pagan will bring, but it wouldn't be bad having her be directly affiliated with the guilds in Legius. Yes. What you mean is that you will announce that the dungeon was cleared by the Sky Dragon Guild. Yes. Of course I don't mind. No. I don't mind. It seems that they were intent on stealing away the achievement despite having received the items for basically free of charge. As a result, in return, there was a very high possibility of them helping her by allowing her to use items, gold, or even experience in grinding of points. Although I wasn't sure who the current guild master that was administrating the city was, but he was quite intelligent. If it was the previous Ahian, I wasn't so sure, but the Ahian now has a path to grow and develop. After this transaction was over, the guild will be benefiting quite a lot. Items, dungeon clear achievement, publicity of the city, and even a priest that has paved her own future. And even honor. It is good for her to accept their offer. Even if a Haiyan might not be willing to join a group, in order to figure out how the guild is running and how it functions, it would be ideal for me, and so I began to speak to her. Accept the offer if they present you one. Ah. Yes. Ah. I mean no. Of course, if you were to help, that is. Thank you. As an official guild member. Thank you very much. After hearing my voice, she gave a strange answer, but after settling herself down, it seems that she had accepted the offer. Though I was a bit anxious, in comparison to the porter life she had endured in her previous clan, I was certain that her future was unfolding nicely. A valuable priest-affiliated class. Just from that, if she was an official guild member, she was already an elite. To express it as an analogy, she has succeeded in being employed. Especially for priests, every time they went out to hunt, priests will be guaranteed priority in items and points, and will enjoy a variety of amenities that are not seen in the public eye. Just from having a clan or guild flag, they can look down upon the presence of other summoned that are without a guild. The moment she accepted their offer, a Haiyan had received absolute rights and privileges in Legius. Yes. Then, I hope that we can get along well. After hearing her last reply, I disconnected the line. As if I was laughing excessively, MEV, who had a large bow on her back, spoke to me. It seems you're in a good mood. Yeah. Things unfolded better than I had thought. I see. Koreak. Soon, we reached the village as we began unpacking. The green skins were highly spirited with energetic faces after having the stress that piled up for several days finally be released all at once. Heian, who had seen blood after a long time, was in a satisfactory state, and everyone was rustling around happily with their newly obtained weapons, showing them off to the clansmen of the Black Spear clan high in the sky. Black Spear is very strong. Girik. He pierced the magician with one throw. Ah. Our chief was originally strong. He deserves the right to lead us. The Blood Dagger chief is also strong. He's definitely stronger from when he had first came. Our captain gets stronger quickly. Girik. The voices continued to resonate around me. Though I had finished my goal, since I had to wait and watch for the city to increase, I had decided to remain in the Black Spear's village for a bit longer, and Black Spear nodded comfortably. As such, darkness quickly came and covered the village. Just in case a Haiyan wasn't doing something unnecessary, I slightly listened into the communication channel, and confirmed that nothing problematic was transpiring. Rather, if there was one, it was that she was looking for me. Mr. Savior. Mr. Savior. Savior. Hearing her call for me, I was about to open my mouth in reply. But I couldn't help but pause for the moment. It was because I could sense that she wasn't calling for me really. I felt that she was doing something else. As if my assumption was right, I started to hear rough breathing coming through the line. Ha! HAA. Savior. Please. Hiya. Ha. It seems that she was having a pleasant time. Considering how much she had been victimized, I thought that she would have a strong sense of rejection, but that wasn't the case. Like a baby cat calling for her mother, I was to be the cause that made her different like this. Since she had smelled the fragrance of Hayans, in another perspective, it was an obvious response. Oh Savior. HAA. I'm so sorry. Sore. Ha. For me to have such dirty thoughts as a dirty follower. I'm truly sorry. She was even having guilt, it seems. To be honest, I did not care what kind of thoughts she had for me, but it seemed that she was slowly climaxing. Hack. Ah. I became silent and embarrassed as I heard that unidentifiable crazy climax from Ahian's voice, causing me to quietly close the line. I felt the theory that there was no normal women around here, might not actually be a lie. Seeing the tent open and Heian approaching me, I reaffirmed my thought, and after that night, a few more days went by. Afterward, well, it seems that MC is one popular male comment. So I think that the Covenant ring works like this: MC can call, hear conversations, block, and listen to what she's doing, but she can only hear his voice in reverse if he allows for it. A one-way conversation basically. Note. What a busy week. Phew, finally had time yesterday. And now finals are only 2 weeks away, dying. Blood Dagger, give me your wisdom. Afterward, and so it begins. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101. Chapter 63. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Impressive. Black Spear muttered as he gazed at the captured humans. Obvious enough, but this was a plan that was bound to succeed. Once news traveled that a new dungeon was found, it would quickly reach the other cities. Scholars and mages that desired knowledge rushed over, while others had flocked over for the items, for the opportunities to become strong. City of Legius had not only gained reputation from this ordeal, but had also increased in population as well. In other words, it had fattened too much. All of this had transpired exactly 18 days after Ahian had reported it to the guild. Recalling back to the past, it seemed that the city was more crowded than before. It must be the advertisement campaign of the Sky Dragon Guild, which ran into overdrive. The management in Legius promoting the findings of this dungeon were being rewarded well. There was a major difference between a clan that made a logbook and publishing it to that of a large guild. Thanks to that, Black Spear was staring at me with astonished eyes. As if he was looking at a sage, he watched me with his mouth agape. Did I not clearly say this would happen? Indeed. You did. However, it is unbelievable to see even with the naked eye. You are truly a wise green skin, O Blood Dagger, who has lost his honor. Interestingly enough, Black Spear now had a strong affinity towards me. If it wasn't for the fact that he was stronger than I, and that he was not leading the Black Spear clan, it felt like he would have wanted to join my clan that instant watching his expression. In the end, after measured glances at me for about 10 days, he finally gathered his confidence and spoke up. Is it possible for this troll, that lacks much to become a brother of the Blood Dagger clan? Blood Dagger, the warrior who has lost honor. In fact, I was aware that he would broach this topic after we had left the dungeon that day. It was because the gaze that he often gave me was very similar to that of Goff's before we had separated. Originally, green skins stick with each other, but in the case of brother clans, that link is closer. Just like how Goff and I decided to move together 3 years from then, Black Spear also wished to join. Of course, not right now. When you truly become independent and raise your flag. I wish to fight alongside you. I nodded thankfully, of course, from his proposal. For you to request of me this kind of proposal. Too flattering. Koreak. After he finished speaking, as if he was somewhat nervous, he was watching intently at me as sweat rolled down his brow. In order to transmit my message to him clearly, I spoke once more. I'll thankfully accept your offer, my brother. For power, wisdom and honor. Thank you, brother. For power, wisdom and honor. He looked pleased. It seemed that he felt like that by being with us, he can develop the clan safely and become stronger. However, the clan that benefited more was Blood Dagger. After our independence, we would attain a strong and valuable ally. While Legius was fattening at the time, I had also not wasted my time by lazily wandering around. I had begun to learn the black spear javelin technique. Of course, it was difficult to imitate the graceful and flexible throwing technique of Black Spear with his long arms. However, with the proficiency of the ancient orc skill, I was able to become quite familiar with it. It was completely different from that of throwing a dagger. The form, to the movements of the body. It wasn't just me that was training though, as the members of the Blood Dagger clan were busily working as well. They were all learning how to throw a spear, which I had commanded them to do, since there was no harm despite the difficulty of it. Thanks to that, our clan's collective power had increased a bit in that time span. It wasn't just us that had changed, but funny enough, another had awakened his unique ability. It wasn't the Mivi or Heian that had awakened it, but the second that stayed behind to lead in my stead at the Green Goblin clan's encampment. For one that was supposed to remain with the Green Goblins, he had instead showed up here in front of us. Although I was initially concerned that he had come after disobeying my orders, but after listening to him speak, I thought for sure that it was never like that. I began to recall the recent conversation that we had. Woa-awea. For Blood Dagger. Seeing that I didn't have a bemused expression, he quickly settled down and bowed. Where are the subordinates that were with you at the Green Goblin village, Hark? Following my words, the first was even more of a sight to behold. Hark had rebelled against Blood Dagger's order. Hark must be punished. Please suspend him from hunting. I will definitely fill the vacant seat left by Hark, Gark promises. Captain. At this time, Gark was menacingly staring down at Hark, as if he was standing on top of the heavens. It was similar from the three goblin siblings as they started throwing stones at their older brother. Blood Dagger doesn't need a dirty subordinate that defies orders. Girick. I will cut family ties with Hark. I will cut it. Girick. It's unbelievable how we had came out from the same stomach. Girick. Ugly Hark, bow down immediately and plead for forgiveness. Hark being attacked by stones was resisting, and soon quickly opened his mouth to me. It is not so. How would I ever defy the words of Blood Dagger? This is a new Hark. New Hark. Hark who would never defy me had apparently dreamt of hunting with me and Gark joyfully every night. He had also witnessed humans hunting together, as they shared the brotherly love. Although he had really wanted to go, since he could not disobey Blood Dagger's given responsibility, he wasn't able to leave his spot. While he was fighting against himself internally of his desire to be with Blood Dagger, his unique ability had suddenly awakened like that. Mirror Image. Funny enough, that was the title of his ability. Like the first, it seems that he was also a prodigy. I couldn't help but think how monstrous these two really were. I had never heard of such an ability. Although the first had an ability that was understandable and somewhat common, but this one was beyond my imagination. To summarize, it was simply another version of himself. So whoever fights Hark will have to experience a 2 versus 1 situation. Of course it wasn't like there were any disadvantages. Although the duration was extremely long, considering how he had found us here. The clone however, was incomparably weak compared to his original self in attack power, and when the new Hark is inflicted damage, the original body will also suffer as well. Considering this was a critical disadvantage. However, it was quite clear that this ability will reveal its true value as it grows and develops. If this ability were to reveal its full potential, then it would take opponents by surprise and be extremely flustered. Anyhow, since we did not have to move around sneakily any longer, I invited him in as all of the Blood Dagger clan gathered together. Through the Covenant Ring, I was able to see that Ahian was enjoying her secret life as she trained, and with all the strong members present, the situation was quite nice. If there was a problem in our clan, the number of subordinates. When we had passed the warrior's exam, we were 65 strong, but after many battles, we had about 45 remaining. Only 20 had passed away after those countless battles, but considering the ratio, this was a very problematic issue. After I was absent-mindedly pondering for some time, Black Spear noticed my expression and queried. "What are you thinking, Blood Dagger?" Normally, he would ask me questions if he was curious. Quite a mature guy. From what I had heard, nearly all of his subordinates had failed the warrior's exam, so I was curious of the strategy as to how he could lead such an excellent tribe after that ordeal. "Black Spear, how were you able to increase the number of subordinates so much?" Hearing me, he looked at me with his eyes wide open. Rather than an expression of admiration, it was a bemusing one. "That is through mating, of course, Blood Dagger." Now I was able to realize why he was staring at me like that. There shouldn't have been any other alternative. The majority of the green skins in the tribe are my children. I knew roughly that the breeding power of the green skins were different from the humans, but for them to flourish to these kinds of numbers within 3 years was truly astonishing. So much so that, I had even thought why we couldn't flourish like this as well. Nevertheless, after pausing to think, the cause was quite simple. Before I could even think about it, Black Spear continued. Noel.n, come to think of it, it seems that your clan lacks female green skins. That is so. A perfect answer. Though I had not cared for much about the sex ratio between females and males, but our clan had an abnormally high number of males. Thinking of the females, the only ones that come into mind would be Mev and the 3 goblin sisters, but the other green skins began to avoid them ever since they wanted to be my wives. For the 3 goblin sisters, they didn't pursue the matter as much, maybe it was due to the green skin they had on, but for Mev, that was a different story. Although I had thought that there was relative freedom between the sexes among the green skins, but that wasn't the case. It seemed that the tribal females began shooing away the males, as they pursued their grand dreams, causing a great restriction to the clan. Of course we were also busy as we battled incessantly without much rest, but this imbalance was perilous. Individual growth was important, but the growth of the tribe as a whole was equally critical as well. I couldn't help but fall under a great dilemma. To be honest, the solution was simple. If I were to become the king of breeding, this would solve everything, but just like how I could not abandon my human mind completely as a green skin, I did not want to have children in this matter. Grunt. In this situation, I began to ponder and brainstorm. If this could not be done from the inside, then it must supplement the numbers from the outside. Normally, green skins would be with their clans, but from my memory, I could recall seeing goblins that were maintaining their tribes without having a clan. There were even goblins that wandered around without a village. Curious, I asked Black Spear concerning the situation. What are the green skins that do not have a clan flag, if I may ask Black Spear? After pondering for some time, deciding that this wasn't too much of a distressful matter, he slowly began to speak. You are asking of the green skins that do form groups. That is so. Expecting that reply, after a brief wait, an answer I did not expect flowed out of his mouth. It is not all, but most of them are green skins that have fled the warrior's exam. TL afterward in green skin, Blood Dagger family confirmed. Comment. Blood Dagger really needs to go out and gather more minions, I mean green skins. TL note. What a busy week. Phew, finally had time yesterday. And now finals are only 2 weeks away, dying. Blood Dagger, give me your wisdom. PR afterward interesting, breed more to make up the numbers. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Sci 101. Chapter 64. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Compared to other green skins, MEV was quite intelligible. Especially after evolving to a fairy, she had become much smarter. Although, compared to her original green skin self, she had regretted evolving to a fairy, but after thinking how strange he was, she thought that she did extremely well. Including the plant woman, Choi Solji, and even the human girl named Ahayan whom the chief had shown interest to, she was able to recognize Blood Dagger's preference. He definitely has a fetish. If she were to have not realized this, she might have regretted evolving into a fairy for the rest of her life. Entering her test, she began to take out her secret weapon that was hidden in the corner. Milk obtained from the females of evil beasts. The reason why she was so obsessed with this while liquid was because of the chief. Captain. Mating. That magical sentence that would block her sexual desire. You're too small. He definitely said that. She was too small in comparison to the chief Blood Dagger's body. If he had the body of a goblin like he did in the past, it wouldn't have mattered, but now he was a dignified orc. Though she wasn't able to figure out whether he was blocking her because he was worried or if it didn't match to his tastes, but this was a very concerning situation. It wasn't like he disliked her, but she couldn't help but ponder. If it was because he disliked her, this was extremely despairing. He does take care and value her at times, but whether she received this as a loyal subordinate or a dignified female, she began to question herself regarding this matter. She might be ugly, but for her sexuality to be rock bottom. There was nothing more disheartening than that. As thoughts clouded her, she raised her secret weapon up. While she was drinking milk, in that instant, she could sense the 3 goblin sisters loitering outside. She quickly hid it away and spoke to them. It seems that the day has finally arrived. Come in. Girik. Understood. Uni. Girik. The 3 goblin sisters had decided to follow her recently. Of course these 3 were greatly changing to that of a human appearance. In other words, they wanted to be the wives of the chief as well. However, with those small goblin bodies, she knew it was impossible for them to receive Blood Dagger's seed. It was obvious the reason as to why they sought her out. It was to gather information concerning Blood Dagger. While they were chattering for a while, they began to ask MEV senseless questions. MEV. Have you mated with Blood Dagger? Girik. Is it that amazing? To be honest, there was no instance of her having mated. But, with the position of the chief's wife, she was forced to lie. It's really amazing. Blood Dagger is a great green skin. Strong in the day and in the night. Once you have a taste of his strength, you can never part from him. Flustered, a resounding exclamation exploded from them. Oh, hi. As expected from the chief. Blood Dagger is different. Girik. Compared to the stupid Hark and Gark, he is a completely different orc. After MEV is pregnant, will it be our turn? Girik. It's our turn, right? Girik. There was probably no hope for these 3 sisters that were smaller than her. But, her mind had already blanked out as she spoke. To be honest, Blood Dagger and I do not have plans on having a child. Why? How come? I have heard that he wants to focus more on his subordinates at this time. This wasn't a lie. In reality, Blood Dagger thought a great deal for his other subordinates. He was always looking for ways to advance, and develop his tribe in his movements. Finishing, the 3 sisters nodded in understanding. I understand the feelings of Blood Dagger. Girik. But he is the chief. He needs to do his utmost to breed. Giric. That is the chief's duty. MEV needs to completely change Blood Dagger's thoughts. MEV can do it. But MEV had already expected this kind of reply. Seeing those fiery eyes, her confidence slowly faltered from their strong stances in this matter. Why would she not want to breed herself? However, Blood Dagger does not want it. He definitely had no thought of changing his belief on the matter. I'll try. In the end, this kind of conversation had appeared. From someone that hadn't even sprayed his seed, how could she possibly try and convince him? Her thoughts were all jumbled up, but she couldn't help it. In MEV we trust. Giric. You must not lose to that plant woman, never. Giric. She was completely losing the battle at the moment. Soon, after achieving their objective, the goblins soon left and MEV couldn't help but hold her head. She had lied for the first time in her life. It felt like her heart was about to burst. MEV began to recall the possibility of success. Evaluating the current situation of the tribe, for some reason, she was gaining confidence that she could do it. Although they had initially departed with a lot of numbers, the clan had decreased in size slowly. The really intelligent Blood Dagger would definitely realize what the current situation the clan was in. Mating and breeding was becoming more and more essential for the well-being of the tribe. With how much the Blood Dagger was lacking in females, as the leader and host, he must set an example first. Of course the plant woman was already receiving Blood Dagger seed, but seeing how she was not pregnant, there was definitely some sort of problem. That was exactly why she didn't concern herself much with the plant woman. For a human with her lower half being that of a plant, it should be impossible for her to be pregnant. He must move for the revival of the clan. MEV, thus, nodded to herself. It was then. MEV. The captain calls. He told me to tell you to come to his tent as soon as possible. Those electrifying words woke MEV up as her hands began to tremble with expectation and excitement. The Blood Dagger was currently having a break after those countless battles. Of course the wise and intelligent chief would notice this. He was definitely worried about the current state of the tribe and the number of subordinates. As expected, that plant woman can't have babies. There's no mistake. Was what she was thinking. For a female plant to not even have babies was quite pitiable, but that meant that she would soon have a great opportunity. Blood Dagger will eventually turn his eye somewhere else. MEV decided to re-measure how much she had grown. Raising herself up, she felt that she had grown, no, she was certain. It seems that the milk she drank daily was effective and efficacious. Nice. Subconsciously, an exclamation escaped her mouth as she slowly entered Blood Dagger's tent. You're here. Yes, Captain. It was difficult for her to control her shy body. She didn't see the plant woman in the tent, which meant that the plant woman was completely thrown away for. With the affirmation that she was the one and only mistress of the Blood Dagger's clan mistress, she straightened her back upright with confidence. The tent of Blood Dagger became more visible to her, and the blanket that Blood Dagger slept in entered her line of sight. It was natural that she was drooling. For someone like her who had fell in love with him from the days of Blood Dagger as a goblin, of course her eyes would automatically scan the place. She wondered what sweet words he'll say. For the revival of the tribe, I need your help. Or maybe, have my children, as countless sentences wandered around her head, but what she wanted most was the reply, MEV. I want you. With her heart pounding, MEV looked up to Blood Dagger. But the words that flowed from Blood Dagger were completely different from what she had anticipated. MEV, could you find the green skins that are without a clan in the vicinity? I've been thinking that we need to recruit some new subordinates. You know just as well that our numbers are scarce as of late. I need to bring in some female green skins to reinvigorate the tribe. Even better if new subordinates were to join us. After his soliloquy, it felt like the whole world was collapsing down onto her. She had never imagined that he would supplement the scarce numbers of the tribe through external sources. However, the chief's command was absolute. Mev, without energy, nodded. Yeah. It definitely seems that she needs to grow more. Must she grow as much as a palm? As if worried seeing her slumped shoulders, she began to hear Blood Dagger's voice. It seems you're not feeling too well. Mev. Yeah. A bit. Even if she were to urge him to mate, she knew it wouldn't work. It was because she had already grasped the strict and difficult behavior of Blood Dagger. But is he worrying about her because she said she wasn't feeling well? She could feel a hand extend over to her. I trust you the most, Mev. It'll be troublesome if you were to get hurt or not feel well. If there's anything you need at any time, I want you to tell me. Soon, Blood Dagger's large hand began stroking her hair down, as she closed her eyes in comfort. It may be a misconception, but she felt Blood Dagger's heart. That it wasn't that he disliked her, but that he valued her extremely. His warm hands were sharing her that kind of story. Afterwards, once they finished sharing and talking regarding to the plans and future of the tribe, Mev was able to quietly leave the tent. Although she couldn't achieve her goal, but it was quite a pleasant and enjoyable time. As soon as she came out, the three goblin sisters approached her. How was it, Mev? Does the captain still not want to have a child? Girik. Anxiously, they asked Mev. Yeah. But it won't be long, I think. If we wait a little, it should be fine. As expected from Mev. Blood Dagger is strong in the day and in the night. Girik. Although it wasn't long, Mev recalled the back to when his hand stroked her as she laughed pleasantly. He definitely has feelings for me. It's just my body that's the problem. Consequently, Mev threw herself into the forest to fulfill Blood Dagger's command. TL afterward touching perspective of Mev. She's the only girl that's really normal LOL comment. Mev best waifu. TL note. What a busy week. Phew, finally had time yesterday. And now finals are only 2 weeks away, dying. Blood Dagger, give me your wisdom. PR afterward team Mev, you can do it. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101. Chapter 65. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I was scratching my head seeing Mev pleasantly leaving the tent with a happy face. As someone that was like dead grass a while ago, it was hard for me to adapt to her elated face. Anyhow, I thought it was a relief that her mood was better as I recalled the conversation that I had shared earlier on with Black Spear. Not all, but most of them are green skins that had eloped the warrior exam. Black Spear spoke with a firm voice. Seeing how his expression wasn't so great, it seemed that he didn't really like them. It was understandable. It was very disgraceful for one to flee from a regular battle. But for the green skins that decided to not undergo the warrior exam and instead escape, their view on them would be unfavorable, to say the least. Then, although the green skins that refused to undergo the test of the Grand Patriarch have formed groups to some extent, they still do not have their own flags. If they have even a speck of honor, they would not dare to set a flag. It seemed that they knew that they had done something very disgraceful by prioritizing their lives over the exam. So, are they now reflecting and repenting on their actions, Black Spear? I have not had a conversation with them, so I do not know. However, if they do not regret their actions, they are not true green skins. Since they are already ones that have abandoned their honor. I see. If you were to look at this in a green skin's perspective, they would obviously not want to interact with those guys, but as a human, they weren't as repugnant as they were made out to be. As someone that thought that fleeing was the best option if victory cannot be attained, they weren't bad at all. Most likely, my subordinates that think like me would have similar opinions. Of course, if they really did not know honor, they should be excluded, but I was sure there were some that had given up the exam for the sake of their clan's stability and survival. Just by that reason alone, it was enough to join our Blood Dagger clan. After roughly summarizing my thoughts, I spoke to Black Spear. Is there a rule that does not allow one to accept those who had fled the warrior exam? Black Spear was shocked from my words, but he soon roughly anticipated what I was thinking. I've never heard of such a rule, but... Blood Dagger. Are you willing to let them in? That is so, Black Spear. There are definitely those that were not able to complete the exam for some unavoidable reason. I would like to offer them one more opportunity. Just because one has lost one's honor does not mean they are not greenskins. I too am a warrior that has lost honor, isn't that so? I see. There was no need for a prolonged explanation. With this much, he definitely knew what I was talking about. Fortunately, there was no rule that restricted the entry of subordinates to join a clan, so it was a tremendous benefit for us. Even if we were to succeed in bringing them in though, there might be some internal conflict between the existing tribesmen, as well as others that may not accept this, but the priority for now is to fill the current clan with new vigor and bodies. Your thoughts are quite deep. One opportunity. And another chance. Black Spear continued to mutter chance as our conversation came to a close. The conditions for recruiting clansmen, that I explained to MEV, were to target groups with a lot of females, groups that were repenting for their lost honor, and lastly, groups with a shaman. If there was anyone that was a shaman, they would be welcomed with open arms here. These three were roughly the conditions that I asked for to MEV. As such, I waited for a few days to hear the good news that MEV would bring. As I waited, I learned about the reproduction and breeding of green skins through Black Spear, and learned that the most interesting part was in fact related to the chief itself. Green skins can mate with each other even if their species are different, and pregnancy is of course possible as well. Of course, excluding the extreme cases such as ogres to goblins. The interesting part is that when a child is born, it follows the race of the mother. For example, if MEV and I were to mate and have a baby, that child would be a fairy, and an Alron likewise if I were to have one with Heian. From the moment they step into the world. That influence wasn't really that important since they can evolve and chance species in their growth, but it was still a fairly interesting fact. I did not know exactly what the influence the male had with the child, but I had thought that maybe it would have some relation to the growth of the child. Another interesting story was that the growth and maturity of green skins were extremely quick. Not as much as dogs, but in 3 years, they were competent warriors, and in about 7 years, they would grow into a complete adult, causing me to think that in order to strengthen the clan, breeding was essential. For reference, the lifespan of green skins was quite long. The last thing I learnt was the problem of possibility. If a goblin were to mate with another goblin, the success rate of impregnation will increase. However, if an orc and goblin were to do it, then pregnancy was relatively low. It was already interesting enough how they could have a child despite being different species, but anyhow, that's how it is. O.org Perhaps that was the reason why Heian was pregnant at present, considering how the differences between an ancient orc and an Alron species were quite significant. It may be because of the fact that she was originally a human, but it was good news for me that it was difficult for her to be impregnated. As someone that's focused on growing and become stronger, that was the reason why I did not want to have a child for now. As I was summarizing, it was then. Captain. I'm coming in. MEV, who had received her task from me a few days ago, entered the tent, and began to report. Seeing her confident expression, it seemed that she had brought some good results. How is it? There are about 3 large groups along this vicinity. Is what I have discovered. Those without flags. The 3 villages that I found all had a lot of women, and this one specific village was mostly consisting of women. One of them had a sex ratio of roughly half-half, while the last one was about 3 females for every male. The results she brought forth were far more than what I had expected. As I thought, MEV is truly essential to this clan, as I spoke. There are quite a lot of places with an abundance of females. Of course that is so. Although females do roam around the battlefields, there are also possibilities that the males haven't returned from their hunts. And although there weren't too many humans around this area a month ago, now there are many competent humans that are roaming around the vicinity, so. Especially the situation of this forest, where Black Spear resided. It was not so great compared to a month ago now with the increasing influx of strong humans. So much so that Black Spear was in a crucial dilemma of deciding whether to gamble on joining me or not. With someone like Black Spear, who had a strong foundation in an area being like this, there was no question how the situation would be like for the other green skins without flags. A very difficult life was a certainty, and they were enduring hard lives like the humans similar to those under the lower stratum of the cities. For now, meeting them one by one was a first. Although they do not have a flag to represent them, they are still one group. As such, there are definitely those that are tasked with leading and growing the size of their villages. We will depart immediately tomorrow. Okay. I once again began to monitor MEV's figure slowly. That ruffled hair that reached down to her boots came into my view, making me wonder just how much she had ran. Her whole body was soaked in sweat, making me assume that she had run here immediately following her investigation. I felt apologetic, so I stroked her hair as a smile appeared before my eyes, as if all of her exhaustion had disappeared in that instant. Thank you. No, it's nothing. MEV was smiling as she left the tent, and as such, the next morning arrived. The morning was quite busy, as we were preparing ourselves following the advice from Gark and MEV that one needed to show dignity and grace when meeting other leaders. Of course it wasn't as formal as how humans wore suits for a meeting or conference. We had to flaunt the power of our Blood Dagger clan to some extent. In contrast to when we had met our brothers of the Green Goblin clan, Black Spear clan, and even the Goff clan, their stances were more firm and confident than before. Especially seeing my subordinates swarm around the goblins with their black powder-painted faces, and drawn dagger symbols on their bodies with even more passion than when they leave for battle, I couldn't help but laugh as well. I too slowly walked towards him and asked like I did previous times. I ask for your service as well. It's an honor. Girek. Somehow, this guy was quite talented in drawing. Not only did he draw for our clan members, but he had also newly painted our flag. Thanks to the announcement that we were planning on meeting the other groups for a few days. His aesthetic sense was burning with passion after a long time. Thanks to that, Hark and Gark stood by my side with a large flag of a blood-stained dagger. I'm not sure if it was because they could be the mentors and seniors of the new recruits, but I did not find anyone that was fooling or joking around. Especially seeing the three goblin sisters quiet like that, I knew. As such, it seemed that we were going to even bring Yabar along. Seeing Yabar after a long time, I stroked her fur. It has been quite a while since I last saw her. Stroking her apologetically for not bringing her out, she, who didn't even glance at my way in the beginning, turned around and rubbed its face against mine. Carrying. After stroking and massaging its fur, it seemed that its anger had waned away. Seeing her, I couldn't help but laugh, and soon when it was time to depart, I was able to ride on top of Yabar. After going on top of her and looking back, it seemed that the clan was prepared. Riding on top of the giant wolf, we slowly began moving with the flag with 2 orc warriors holding the large flag on their backs, 1 fairy archer, and an Alron magician. Following behind us as well were the orc warriors and hobgoblin assassins, all marching behind me. All of them had blood dagger symbols painted on their faces and bodies as they marched on. Raising my hand, a deafening cry rang back. For Blood Dagger! For Blood Dagger! I also prayed that things will go smoothly as I stroked Yabar's back slowly. TL afterward recruitment time. Yay comment. MEV best waifu. TL note. Thanks for all the support on my finals. As I had stated in Dragonpour, was translating chapters of DP first as I felt it lacked chapters after I finished. Anyhow, happy holidays and stay safe. PR afterward Psi 101. And so the GS Army Trials begins. Translator Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 66. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The Blood Dagger clan moved slowly. It wasn't a battle, but it was a shame that there were no drums to sound off this wonderful departure. Since the green skins that always sounded the drums had left together with Goff. It has been a while since I had last gone on a trip together with Ibar. I sensed he enjoyed the pleasant time as he made sounds of Korean, as we walked, while I looked around despite knowing that there were no evil beasts around. Of course it wasn't just him that was having a pleasant time. Gark and Hark. They would always stick beside me with threatening postures as they maintain a nasty atmosphere in the air unlike their normal and stupid faces. I ran up front and spoke to MEV, who was our guide. Where's the first one? The first place is where there are a bit more females green skins gathered. It was a pretty nice village. I'm not sure if they noticed me or not, but the place was well fortified and guarded. Seeing MEV talk like this, I could already estimate that the leaders that led these groups were not idiots at all. Or maybe they had a lot of fear, but it's definitely one of the two. As such, we continued to march as we saw the village of the Astray green skins come into our sight. For Blood Dagger. The amusing part was that as we neared the village, the Blood Dagger clan screamed louder and louder. When I was thinking about if the village were to flee at this rate, MEV, who had entered the village in advance, returned with a shocked face. Captain, huh? It's empty. I too couldn't help but be flabbergasted as well. Entering the village, I couldn't find any of them. I was sure that there were traces here and there of livelihood. However, seeing how there wasn't one member of that population meant that they had already known that we were coming. Well, with how much we were shouting and advertising, there was no question they wouldn't know, but despite that, the fact that they disappeared was shocking nevertheless. They fled. Fled. Those who run away before even encountering the enemies were definitely those that are not worthy of being called green skins. However, I began to be curious. We definitely had no intention to fight. Of course, our stances may be somewhat aggressive, but in their eyes, it seemed as if a great threat was approaching them. Compared to the green skins I encountered before, they were completely different. Looking around, I was able to find the other Blood Dagger clansmen had begun screaming. Cowards! They are cowardly green skins. How pathetic. Karuk. Despicable is different from cowardly. Girik. Seeing some subordinates shout that despicable was different from cowardly, as if it was stabbing their own pride, it was hilarious to watch them act so cute like that. Anyhow, in the meantime, I looked over MEV and continued. Can you find their trail? Yup, of course. Although it has been long since they had disappeared from their places, their traces were all over the place in regards to their current growth. Even I was able to discover their traces. Of course my ability was nowhere near MEV's, but seeing footprints here and there, it was obvious. They fled towards this direction. MEV slowly walked towards this direction. It definitely seems that they were fear-stricken as they had really fled deep into the forest. It seemed that they were determined to not allow this village to be discovered by the humans, which was affirmed as the forest became denser the further we walked in. As if they had lost their patience, Hark and Gark began expressing their displeasure. We cannot allow these kinds of guys to be our tribesmen. Karuk. Although I am following the will of Blood Dagger, but these guys are not worthy of being green skins. These green skins are bad. Their advice did have some truth in them. Their words were not wrong, but it was ideal to meet all of them at least once, I thought. Delving deeper into the forest, we discovered a cave, with a small, organized road leading towards it. It definitely seems that they haven't escaped towards here once or twice. Entering the canyon with little rocks that laid on the edges of the road, we were able to see one hobgoblin. Seeing how he couldn't even make eye contact, it really seems that they were stricken in fear. But seeing how he had arranged his group deep inside the cave, I could sense that he had valued the group very much. Carrying, at this time, Ibar began to lowly growl, causing the hobgoblin to tremble once more. For blood dagger! For blood dagger! The tribesmen continued to scream, proclaiming their arrival. I raised my hand down, causing them to settle down soon enough. Finally, the atmosphere could accommodate a conversation. What is your name? Ha, Hakajan, blood dagger, O honorable warrior. The hobgoblin replied with his head bowed, causing me to snort once more before resuming my questions. It has been quite a while since I was last called an honorable warrior. Everyone else had called me a defeated warrior, but seeing him add such adjectives, I couldn't help but sense flattery in his words. Do you know of me? Are you not the clan of the West that is rumored to be growing the fastest? The name of Blood Dagger has attained much fame, as it has spread to many other villages including our group as well. There are even rumors that you had become brother clans with the BL Black Spear clan. I see. I was able to deduce one thing from this conversation. Although they weren't able to be a part of the community of the Green Skins, they were up to date with the current events. Hearing Hakajan's voice, my tribe behind me began to roar once more. What an amusing situation. This guy was clearing using flattery. Not just me, but also to the tribesmen behind me as he was releasing their frustrations. We are growing the fastest. The name of Blood Dagger will tremble under the heavens. While I was briefly thinking of something else, I heard his trembling voice speaking to me. It seems that he wanted to ask an important question. Perhaps the most critical one. But what has made you come to this place? We have not come to do harm upon you. I have just come to check and see how your group is faring. It's more appropriate to call this a visit. TCH. Ah. Despite that, his rigid expression did not relax in the slightest. I will promise with my lost name. I have not come to put you under harm. If he was sensitive to the rumors, then he would surely know that I had lost my name, since the event of how I was defeated and lost my honor and name in the sacred battle against the Queen of the North was already a famous story that circulated among the Green Skins, so there was no question that he wouldn't know of it. As expected, his expression gradually relaxed, knowing full well just how important it was for Green Skins to put their honor on the line. I understand, Blood Dagger. I will lead you inside the cave. Thank you. But why did you leave such a good village and come to this kind of place, Hakajan? From my words, he closed his mouth and did not reply. They fled because they were scared. Those that were born as a green skin could not spit out such words. Looking at him curiously, I began to analyze him. That is. His expression was definitely stricken with fear. He seemed to be thinking about his honor. As if he was rolling his head, trying to make sure not to answer with an ambiguous response to displease me. Well. You do not have to answer if you do not want to. Everyone has their reasons. Thank you. I had roughly assumed the reason as to why, and I did not want to concern myself with it much either. The cave was quite small. Looking to the side slightly, I was able to see the small group trembling in fear, causing me to wonder how they had survived like this to this day. There were about 20 of them. There were definitely a bit more females in this group. Although I saw a few men around, they weren't ready to fight at all. Even if I were to recruit them, I could not utilize them immediately. After training them for quite some time would I be able to finally use them. As my large self entered the cave. Girik. Girik. Voices began to ring inside the cave. Hakajan was attempting to settle the group down. Since I had promised him no harm to the clan with my honor at stake, he was attempting to reassure his people as best as possible. Soon, after this guy had brought some food over, we were finally able to have an earnest conversation. A full-scale investigation, I could say, of whether or not they could be integrated into our clan. How long has it been since you came to this place? About 2 years. It has been long. However, it seems that your group has not grown at all. In the case of the Blood Dagger clan, they already possessed quite a large number of orc warriors. For this group though, there were only a few female hobgoblins including Hakugen. After not being able to accomplish much results in the tutorial, it seems that after leaving that place, they had never left for a significant hunt once. Yes. That is so due to many reasons. The warrior exam. Why did you give up the warrior exam? From my question, he failed to answer again. He continued to lick his lips as he nervously looked back as if he had heard me say as if why he had become scared and fled from the exam. The other hobgoblins behind him began to avoid making eye contact with him, causing me to have no choice but to sigh. Funny enough, they had no desire for battle. For common green skins, it was natural to have the spirit to engage in combat, but they had lost complete faith in themselves. The Blood Dagger clan do run away from battles. However, like my subordinates have stated, to say the least, our retreat was a strategic effort to achieve victory. These guys just fled. Those who have no will to fight have no right to enter the Blood Dagger clan. Sighing once more, I began to rise from my seat. Staying here any longer would be nothing more than a waste of time. Turning my head towards the entrance of the cave, I began to slowly walk out of the cave. I will come again once more. At that time, I would like to see you at the village, Hakugen. I apologize, Blood Dagger. He guided me up to the entrance of the cave, from where I gave him my farewell with a wave of my hand. As soon as I stepped outside the cave, the tribesmen voices began to roar deafeningly. It is the cowards. They cannot be called greenskins. I couldn't help but sympathize with their opinions. Seeing how my expression wasn't so good, Heian spoke. So it seems they are. I am not sure. What I am certain is that they do not have the privilege to join us. But that doesn't mean my mind is not troubled. Yes. Especially that hobgoblin, Hakugen. Those eyes clearly convey a look of wanting to survive. Chapter 67. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I see. If it was Heian, whose desire to live was unmatched, to say that, then it was true. I began to slowly reminisce on the hobgoblin's face in my mind. I could definitely sense a familiar feeling to what I had seen from Heian at the time. The desire to live, to survive on this continent, it was a sure weapon. I personally thought that it was more important than the desire to fight and other useless greeds. However, soon, I stopped thinking about him. Just because one has a desire to live doesn't mean that he can survive. Without action and determination, the weapon Hakugen wields could be his greatest weakness. Since our tribe was in such a desperate situation that almost anyone would be allowed to join, but I wanted to give them some time. MEV, let's go to the next one. Okay. What's next? It is a tribe consisting almost entirely of females. Their numbers are larger than the guys we just saw. As such, we began to walk towards a different direction. As if the tribe that had marched so defiantly at the start was disappointed by Hakugen and his group, it seemed as if the energy in the group had died down a bit. I thought that it for the best. Since it could give off a much denser and serious atmosphere compared to our appearances from before. After riding a bar for quite some time, a village entered my sight. Maybe due to the fact that this village consisted of nearly all women, it was much tidier than what we saw previously. This group even came out and welcomed us. Welcome, O honorable warrior, Blood Dagger. The person that welcomed us was a female chief. With a large fawn, she had the appearance of a troll. What was interesting was that she was pretty. She had a similar appearance to that of humans, just like the 3 goblin sisters that wanted to win my interest. You must have known that we were coming your way. It wasn't just the female chief that had come out. It felt as if they had been here for a few hours, no, for a long time, as if they were expecting our arrival. Envied, yes, that is so. We were able to find traces of someone visiting our village. Lately, there were rumors of Blood Dagger lingering around the vicinity, and amongst that clan, that there was a fairy with a bow that Blood Dagger trusted the most, and so I had deduced that she would be the one to have visited us. I couldn't help but look back at her in shock. She was much more intelligent than her outward appearance had assumed her to be. Looking towards me, it seemed that she was in an enraged state. Since there was no possibility of her leaving footprints behind, there was a high possibility that powder from her fairy wings had dropped at that time. Impressive. You praise me too much. Then you must have also known that we were going to visit this place. From my words, the female troll replied with a slight smile. Of course. For now, come inside and let us talk. All right. I slowly walked into the village and looked around. It was a small village of about 40 or so, similar in size with us. If you were to ask if the members of the group were strong, I couldn't answer that precisely, but they seemed to be up on the rise. The reason was that I was able to see a few orcs, and even a few trolls here and there. The strange part was that in this village, there were many that looked like humans. That kind of vibe I got from the 3 goblin sisters and Heian. The members of the village greeted us with their hands on their chests as we entered, accounting to the uplifting of the shoulders of my tribesmen. Soon, we entered the large tent. It seems that it was the tent of the chief. Because everyone could fit inside the tent, Heian, Mivi, the loyal 5 siblings and I entered, while the rest stood outside for standby. They even allowed Ibar to enter and thought of me, allowing myself to be in quite a comfortable position as I leaned back against Ibar's stomach. Korean. Inside the tent was the women of that group. The female troll that looked to be the leader had quite a dignified presence as the others looked upon her. Soon, after finishing the food, we slowly walked out and surprisingly found humans. You hunt. Yes, not much to boast about, but from seeing the evolved people in the group, I had expected this to a certain degree, but I hadn't imagined that they hunted. It seems that this group was fairly independent. Even now, I did not want to touch human meat, so I resorted to having fruits with wine on my hand. With the atmosphere being nice, we were able to have a conversation naturally. Surely. You asked if I knew the reason as to why your Blood Dagger clan visited us. That is so. Isn't it to reinvigorating your clan that is short on bodies? With the countless brave and honorable battles that you continue to engage in, the numbers of your tribesmen are decreasing gradually, and with the high proportions, you cannot recuperate the numbers from just breeding. Is that the reason as to why you have come to see us? That is exactly so. I was frankly surprised. The Hakajan from earlier looked a bit smart, but this woman was extremely intelligent. Considering how the green skins normally have low intelligence, just the eloquence in her speech was enough for her to look intelligent. For her to even grasp our intention and say it like that, she might be intelligent enough to be one of the smartest among the whole green skin species. How intelligent. You are a wise green skin. You praise me too much. Precisely, it hasn't been decided whether to have this clan join us yet, but your decision and intent will be the most important factor regarding this decision. To be honest, for these green skins without a flag, it would be extremely lucky for them to be able to join a new group. Different from humans, green skins are social animals that want comrades to fight with to raise one's honor. No matter how much a group would grow, they were just hunting on their own. I'm pretty sure that they would want to come in and join us. As expected, she slowly began to open her mouth. If you want Blood Dagger, we hope to be able to add strength to the Blood Dagger clan. If we can redeem our lost honor, we will endure whatever comes our way. I stared at the female troll, and soon she resumed. Even if I was simply an object for breeding with. That was a bit of a shocking remark. Green skins are more liberal in mating, but they definitely do not concern themselves with rape or compulsive relationships. Basically, she's saying that if we let them in, she will listen to whatever we want. I have heard that you like human women. I do not know when such rumors had spread, but it was true. Which is probably why that Alron is besides you, as well as the affectionate fairy, all of which have appearances similar to that of a human. I'm sorry to say this, but the fact that both of them had not have children yet must be due to fertility. After briefly looking at me, she continued. I can give birth to Blood Dagger's child. Before the troll could finish her sentence, Mev jumped up from the seat, as her eyes were teary. It seems that she was a bit heartbroken. As for the three goblin sisters, they were full of anger. Before Mev could speak, the three goblin sisters began raising their voices. No. Our chief clearly said he did not want children. You impertinent troll. How impudent. You can't say that to Mev. How dare you? They were truly agitated, it seems. I raised my hand and the tent became quiet once again. I don't recall ever saying it out loud that I did not want children, but despite that, I wondered how they knew my intentions. For now though, I thought it was best to rescue Mev from this situation. For them to be agitated like this, it seems that pregnancy was a significant matter amongst the women of the green skins. As they have said, I have no intention of having children yet. I see. I apologize if I was discourteous. It would be right to apologize to Mev, not to me. The female troll apologized to Mev, causing her to sit back down onto her seat, but despite that, the atmosphere was still tense. In the situation that they would become comrades, it seems that their relationship wouldn't be so good between each other, especially with how their first interaction with one another had transpired. I sighed once more before speaking. Apart from that, your determination is quite interesting. Yes. We are still regretting the fact that we ran away from the warrior exam. If we could turn back time, we would fix our wrongs, but it is miserable that we cannot. We cannot express just how thankful we are for this kind of opportunity to be granted to us. Other than this, the troll and I talked on various topics, and allowed me to grasp their group to some extent. The more I conversed with the female troll, the more worried Mev and Heian became. It seems that with our remaining tasks at hand, it would be best to gradually leave. While trying to get up, the female troll quickly spoke. It's late, so how about sleeping here for the night before you leave? It wasn't a bad offer, but with that uneasy expression from Mev, I could not do so. Thank you, but we must go. We will come back again. Yes. I will be waiting for you. As such, we were able to leave their village. Along our way, I felt something strange seeing Mev so quiet. Captain. Ha. Are you going to let that female troll in? I am thinking about it. It would be best to gradually have members join than to have too many incorporate with us at once. That is the right way to make our tribe grow. After we visit the last village, it would be best to make a decision then. Is that so? Is that really so? Yeah. Although she lightened up a lot from my words, in contrast to her opinion, I really wanted to incorporate that group into our tribe. Especially that woman, as she was extremely intelligent and her group was strong. Surely enough, I was looking for a smart one to provide me support, and she met that condition. With how they were hunting already, the group of the female troll would probably be the most ideal choice to increase our combat power. Not only was she much wiser than the hobgoblin Hakajan, but she was also well aware of my intentions. As if Mev had known about the reality, she withdrew her expectations as we arrived at the last village late into the night. Chapter 68. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As we were entering the third village, the clansmen all had some sort of expectations written on their faces. On the other hand, the three goblin sisters were surrounding Mev, comforting her. She can never be forgiven. Girek. commented one. Such an impertinent troll. MEV stay strong, replied another. MEV is a healthy fairy, prompted the last of the goblin sisters. The other clansmen did not have much of an opinion considering that I didn't want children, but for the women, knowing that there was no heir to the chief, this was quite a sensitive matter. I could feel as if a storm was brewing, so this situation was not so ideal currently. The reason was because of the female troll's recent impertinent attitude that was directed towards MEV and Heian back then. Of course I knew what MEV wanted, but to be honest, it felt like I would be committing a crime, so I did not even try to attempt and fulfill her wish. It was unrealistic to have a child right now, and becoming stronger was my immediate priority. As such, while having such non-important thoughts, we marched forward once again. The gender ratio of this group was the most balanced one amongst all the groups so far. In fact, I had a lot of expectations before arriving here, but I was somewhat worried at the same time that there would not be much growth in this village. Not only me, but the rest of the Blood Dagger clan all seemed to be of the same frame of mind. The third group certainly felt a bit larger in size compared to the first and second. As the gender ratio was a bit even, there was more resilience and tenacity that existed in this group. Both attributes that the Blood Dagger clan needed. As if they knew we were coming, they were a bit cautious and wary of us. Soon, an orc from the village slowly advanced forward. What business does Blood Dagger, who has been rummaging around the forest as of late, have with us? This unknown orc was completely different in appearance compared to first and second. However, he very much resembled those orcs that had not lost their honor. It wasn't like he was terrified or intelligent, but he carried a dignified presence. I just came to look around. I was curious what green skins lived around here. Is that all you really have to say? A suspicious voice. In that instant, I couldn't help but feel that I had erred in coming here. They had no intention of joining us. Rather, they were a type of group that wanted to continue living independently on their own grounds. But, just in case, I slowly broached our intentions, which he immediately replied to. Do you have any willingness to join our clan? I appreciate the offer, but we will decline. We want to live amongst ourselves. It is an opportunity to regain your honor. Of course, I would know that. However, that would be the honor that would have been recovered by you, Blood Dagger. Just like how you are waiting for the day to fight the opponent that stole your honor, we too are looking to regain our honor in our own way. As such, there is no need for external help, Blood Dagger. Rather, in a sense, it is disgraceful for us to have such thoughts. This guy. How tempting. To be honest, there were many that could be called generals in this clan. Gark and Hark, and if you consider the alliances we have and extend outward from our clan, then even Goff and Black Spear. As such, what was needed at the moment was a shaman, or an intelligent green skin like that female troll. That is to say, a strategic or tactical general was what we needed. It was due to wanting to select and recruit this type of green skin, that we had departed for this expedition in the first place. Nevertheless, I wanted him. I didn't know how long it had been since he was summoned onto this continent, but his eyes were burning. I couldn't say that he was stronger than Gark and Hark, but this guy was definitely growing. I cannot comprehend why a green skin such as yourself would flee from the warrior exam. That was my honest opinion. This kinds of green skin would never retreat from a challenge. It is not I that fled, Blood Dagger, but my father. I see. It seemed that the situation was more complicated than I had thought. No wonder he looked a bit different, he was born in this place and not summoned. So, is your father the leader of this group? My father is dead. I killed him with my own hands. He doesn't know honor. He desired female green skins and indulged himself in alcohol. He drove many of our tribesmen to the jaws of death. He was gradually becoming corrupted. In order to protect the little honor that we had left, I decided to kill my father myself. Thus I now am the leader of this group. He was someone who proudly spoke about how he had ended the life of his father. In terms of human perspective, this would definitely be a condemnable action. However, turning behind, I saw the reactions of Gark and Hark nodding. So you have protected his last remaining honor. How touching. It must not have been easy for you. Even the three goblin sisters were shedding hot tears down their faces. I did not know what was so moving, but I nodded for now. Honorable. I understand your will very much. You want to rebuild your honor, and wish to take another route instead of ours. Blood Dagger's offer is of course appreciated. But the situation is not appropriate. Recollecting back to the anecdote of the Three Kingdoms when Liu Bei visited Zhuge Liang 3 times in attempt to attain him, I decided to offer him a chance once again, but seeing his eyes, I decided not to. Even if the heavens were to collapse, he had no intention of joining us. In terms of joining my clan or moving with me together, I realized it was only possible once he was able to raise the flag in his own heart. I did not know how they would regain their honor and raise the flag of their group once more, but I wanted to cheer them on. So I soon continued. If you do not mind, may we enter your village? Of course. With Blood Dagger visiting this place, the other green skins will definitely be filled with strength and vigor. Finishing the conversation, I rode a bar and walked into the village. What I saw were goblins and orcs, relentlessly training against one another without rest. The tents and sleeping areas of the green skins also came into sight. It was a perfect village. There were aspects that were commonly seen within Black Spear's village and mine. It wasn't a group, but one complete clan. Of course, it seemed that it had been some time since they had last engaged in an actual battle, but seeing them train like this, I was able to see the potential growth of these despite not being strong. Impressive. Thank you. The other clansmen, including first and second, raised their hands onto their chests in salute to the warriors that were training against one another with their swords. I really liked these guys, but it couldn't be helped. At this time, I wanted to gift this village something nice, so I called for Gark, and soon, while taking a few orc warriors of his own, he began to return back to Black Spear's clan. This way. He led me to his tent. The interior of the tent wasn't bad at all. We couldn't help but raise the evaluation of this group to even higher than before. The potential for growth was there. Rather, it was more likely that they would grow stronger than us. Soon, just like the second village, he began to bring over alcohol and some simple appetizers. To be honest, I was full, but I thought that it wouldn't be polite to deny their hospitality, so I decided to force the alcohol and food down as we continued our conversation. Then, I realized that he was not drinking. Will you not raise your glass? With a worried look that poison might have been added, I looked at him, causing him to be extremely embarrassed before replying. I cannot drink yet, Blood Dagger. So you have decided that you will not drink until you have regained your honor. That is not so. I am not an adult yet. So I cannot drink alcohol. I barely managed to hold my laughter in. For him to be not an adult with that kind of face was extremely surprising. As mentioned earlier, green skins were treated as true warriors after 7 years. In other words, it has not been 7 years since he had been born into this world. Although he looked a bit different, I did not imagine that he was not an adult. Interestingly enough, he was monitoring my response as he pretended to look elsewhere. A bit of a gentle appearance. How much time has passed since you came into this world? Karuk. It has been only 5 years. So that vicious face was only 5 years old. Although the standards were different from that of humans, it was quite amusing. For someone to be very different from his first impression, I smiled. After we conversed for a long time about this and that, we began to finally talk regarding how to get back one's honor. So, how will you restore your honor? I do not know. If I could receive the warrior exam of the Chief Patriarch once more, I would take it again. It would be difficult, but there would definitely be a way. I too want to be able to raise my own flag just like you do. Perhaps you can. Seeing this village, that is how I feel. Thank you. While we were talking, we began to hear voices from outside. It seems that Gark had arrived from his errand. It was no wonder that it was so boisterous outside. There was no question that the young orc's eyes were wide, full of curiosity. I looked at him and slowly spoke. Let us go outside. Taking him outside, what came into our view were the weapons that Gark had brought over. This is. He was looking at me with an uncomfortable expression. Despite claiming that he would not receive any outside help, I had brought weapons for him. I appreciate your thoughts, but I will not accept these, blood dagger. Koryung. I knew that he would be stubborn. How troublesome. Seeing him pride himself so highly couldn't help but make me smile. But, for these guys to be able to do anything, an increase in power is necessary. If he were to accept our gifts, he would have a huge debt to our Blood Dagger clan, so we needed to make sure these guys accept our weapons unconditionally. As such I began to speak to him. I am not just giving it to you, young orc that is looking for one's honor. I am investing right now. What do you mean by investment, Blood Dagger? It's simple. When I lend a weapon to you, I expect 2 arms to be returned to me. As much as I help you, there will always be a time when I need help as well. He was looking at me with a strange look. There was no doubt he was tempted by these weapons. I began to slowly scour their weapons that the goblins and orcs carried around me. Rusty daggers, swords with blades that couldn't even cut, and axes that had lost all sharpness. In order for these guys to grow steadily, accepting my gifts was near a necessity for them in reality. Koryung. Look at what your tribe has, young orc. A chief needs to know when to bend his pride for his tribe. As much as you can restore the honor that you had lost, you can also pick up the pride that is on the ground. As if he understood, he began to nod slowly. I will repay you. I will definitely give back what I received. That is how this broken bow lives. TL afterward woot. Is that the broken bow, named monster, that was mentioned earlier in the chapter? Comment. Damn, such a busy New Year's week. Now with school starting, less courses this semester, yay, time for the new year. Hope everyone had a great New Year's. TL note. Despite being so inconsistent due to my busy schedule, thanks for reading and supporting. I really do enjoy translating these 2 novels, and will try and make sure to balance my life with my hobby, translating, more. Thanks. PR afterward sigh. Interesting, broken bow, I give you a thumbs up. Walk the path of honor. BM. Can we switch our MC from Blood Dagger to Broken Bow? Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, Borderline Masochist. Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did you just say? I said I will repay what I received, Blood Dagger. No, after that. Confused, he slowly began to repeat what he had said. He was most likely curious of why I wanted to hear his nickname again. Especially with how my expression was, it was very likely so. Br Broken Bow. Broken Bow. I didn't ask for his nickname again without reason. Broken Bow. Definitely the orc archer that had lost his life to the Queen of the North. Especially after operating solo in the northern region. The orc archer who always wore a large wolf leather on his head, as he shot down humans with a massive bow. His way of hunting humans was so extreme that his nickname was infamous even to the west. It was common to see corpses that looked like beehives, and although his infamy lasted a short while, it was the subject of fear to all the summoned in the north. Why this kind of guy was here is simply too startling. So it means that he did not start in the north to begin with. Who would have expected a guy like him would have his roots in the west? Regathering myself, I slowly spoke to the boy again. I'm curious to know, if you had any plans of leaving the Western Forest. I didn't plan it exactly, but I had thoughts of doing so. Since I am in a situation of willing to do everything I can to lead my tribe. Whether to the east, the south or the north, I would leave for anywhere as long as we could regain our honor. I do not know why you are asking, anyhow, I appreciate what you have given my men. I nodded speechlessly. If he were to head for the north, he would surely die. But before that, there will definitely be a certain incident. For example, the case where his whole tribe was annihilated, leaving him the lone survivor. Whether this incident occurred after traveling for the north or in the Western Forest, I did not know. One thing was to be certain, I could not send him up north. The fact was that one of the guys, Broken Bow, that I had determined to keep by my side after my reincarnation, was right here. I could not have imagined in my wildest dreams that I would have encountered him in this matter. Not only that, I had met him when he was still a boy. Who would have thought? As such, I urged him. I would like it if you did not go north. From my sudden statement, he stared at me with a surprised look. With his eyes wide open, he spoke. That is not for you to decide, Blood Dagger. The warrior that took my name headed north. I am not certain, but it most likely probable. In the end, I had no choice but to speak urgently. Aside from confirming that girl had traveled for the north, I had to stop him from heading north by any means, so I spoke recklessly. Fortunately, it seemed that being a young boy was beneficial for me, as he didn't notice anything strange in my words. The probability that I will encounter that warrior. You are worried for me. That is so. It is because I think that you are a strong warrior. After listening to my words, he soon nodded. He was extremely elated, most likely because I was worried that the warrior who stole my name would also make him a victim as well. The fact that Blood Dagger acknowledges him so much must make him feel good. Of course, my thoughts were completely different from his, as he would lose his whole tribe, pride, and self completely, as he would wander all alone, only to die miserably to the Queen of the North in the end. But of course, it does not matter what this Broken Bow is thinking. I will keep note of your words then. Thank you. Although he was dignified at the moment, he was still a young Bow. Compared to the rumors I've heard of Broken Bow, there were a lot more exaggerations than I had thought. Apart from this gift, our clan also wants to be friendly with your group. That means, though being brother clans will happen after you raise your flag, but I believe that you are an honorable warrior, Broken Bow. There is no further need for words. It seems he was extremely moved by my words. If he were to have any bit of doubt of why I was showing so much favor to him, then this conversation would have been much more difficult, but as a young boy carrying a heavy burden, it seemed that perhaps I may have been the image of an angel descending down from heaven in his eyes. As expected, his eyes were sparkling. The caution that was in his eyes in the beginning had completely disappeared, and he was instead looking at me as if I was a true brother. In contrast, what he really yearned for was to move independently. As such, I spoke this statement to meet his standards as well. Apart from that, I will surely receive what I have just given, Broken Bow. Thank you, Blood Dagger. I will definitely repay you. I did not reply to him as I slowly raised my hand to my chest, causing him to awkwardly repeat the same action as well. Anyhow, after roughly finishing up, we headed back to Black Spear's village together with my tribesmen. Recalling his glittering eyes, I chuckled. In conclusion, although you could call it a rejection from the third village, the fact that we were able to forge a good relationship with a named monster called Broken Bow was a great achievement. However, contrary to my thoughts, the faces of the women of the tribe including MEV were wrinkled. The reason was obviously, I hate that troll girl. If Blood Dagger wants her, I cannot help it, but I hate her. She insulted MEV. This cannot be just passed over. The problem was due to the troll female. This was most likely because she had proposed that MEV be cast aside, and had centralized an image of breeding in its instance. Apart from that, although I did not like it when she had recklessly spoken of MEV, but for the tribe, it was proper to push aside one's personal feelings. Thinking about the repulsion, and complaints that will arise once I choose that troll female was giving me quite a headache. As if she was convinced that I would select the second village, MEV's expression was not good at all, as she stared at me as if wanting to say something. When the atmosphere darkened a bit more, it was Heian, not MEV, that spoke to me. It seemed that she also disliked the female troll, as she came beside me. Have you decided? Not yet. Although they tried to hide their tightened fists from my sight after my short reply, I could still notice them very clearly. I couldn't help but smile, and Heian spoke once again. In my opinion, it would be proper to have a test for them. A test? Yes. Although green skins may think a bit different, but humans are like that too. Just because they ran once, does not guarantee that they wouldn't hesitate to flee twice. What do you think? Don't you want to know what they'll choose, if a life-threatening situation were to occur? Her words were sufficiently persuasive. At the end of the conversation, Heian looked at me interestingly and laughed. Her eyes glinted of murderous intent, as she was probably thinking of wanting to gain personal revenge against the troll that insulted her. With the suggestion from Heian, MEV and the three sister goblins all nodded as they raised their voices. She was even sending friendly looks of goodwill and hospitality towards them, something that was improbable to happen before this. As such, she succeeded in attaining their interest. The plant is right. Yes. It's a test. The troll female will definitely flee. No doubt. The green plant is right. The blood daggers test. Blood daggers test. Blood daggers test. As if that word had trembled in their chests, one after another, they began to shout. In the end, even Gark and Hark who were holding the flags began to shout out as well. It's the blood daggers test. The blood daggers test will start. Even if I did not want to test them, due to their expectations and support, it seems that I was left with no choice but to start a test. Nodding, I raised my arms, causing my clansmen to cheer once again. We returned to the village continually shouting, blood daggers test all the way. Arriving, I laid down and began to ponder about the test. The intention was good, since there was no guarantee that they will not run away twice given the circumstances. Rather, those who saved their own necks would probably select the same choice if they were to encounter a similar situation. Of course, if they were sincere in their regret, they wouldn't make the same choice again, but the temptation to survive is far greater than one might think. Thus, I slowly began to activate the Covenant Ring. To be honest, the first thing that came into mind when I was thinking about the test was a Heian. The moment I injected mana into it, a voice immediately began to transmit from the other side. Savior.nim, HAA, she was breathing out roughly, making it appear to be an extension of what happened last time, but I did not have the leisure to listen to all her desires. I called out for a Heian in my mind. A Heian. Saw. 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 Savior.nim. There was silence for a moment. Since she might be slightly embarrassed, I skipped ahead to the main point, while trying to be as oblivious as possible. Which seemed to be the correct action. I have something for you to do. Yes. 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 I will. Willingly. Accept it thankfully. I then moderately shared my thoughts with her. The contents of the conversation was quite simple. The first village that we visited, as well as the second tribe's location, I leaked to her. There will certainly be a few summoned in Legius that do not have anything to do, and so they will be fitting to use for the test. The important part of the test was to determine if they would abandon us, flee or fight. It was important to have a detailed plan, but I thought it was best to start from the basic foundation for now. The rumor that a Heian will spread out will naturally spiral around the summoned, and soon they will form an expedition to verify the source of that rumor. So, so all I need to do is spread it. That is so. This is sufficient enough for the time being. Also, if you hear rumors concerning monsters of the third village in the forest, report them immediately to me. Whether it was from the expedition, or if they have discovered an entirely different village from the original two targets, I request this of you. Yes, yes, I understand. As such, once the conversation was over, I turned off the communication, causing her to begin calling out for me earnestly once more. Savior. Savior.nim, can I come with you? TL afterward I want to see the hell that's about to be set loose once the female troll joins the tribe. Comment. Using the word savior.nim, which is basically like savior.sama/Lord Savior. TL note. Trying to be more motivated to translate. Maybe if I consider it as a job instead of a hobby. Cross his fingers, PR afterward Psi 101. A trial for the GS prospects. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorn. $. On the first village not to run second one will end up fleeing. BM. A test. A test can never account for every factor of strength a person has. For example, a test on archery will never tell you how strong a warrior with a sword is, or a test of spearmanship will not show you the skill with a knife and stealth. I wonder what the trial is going to be then. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 70. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Savior. Savior.nim, can I come with you? From Ahian's words, I had to consider for a moment. In this test, there was no purpose to kill the humans. However, if she was the only one from the Sky Dragon Guild to return alive, then they might consider it strange. With how he was to proceed with the two tests for Hakugen and the female trolls group, it was more so. But I thought it wouldn't be too bad to see her face to face, so I granted her wish. It wouldn't be bad to see you once. An immediate reply. She was extremely excited as I heard her voice. Thank you. Savior.nim, thank you. After listening to her, I disconnected the call. There was a high chance that she would start spreading the information immediately after our conversation. Words like, there's a village somewhere here. As those rumors would reveal themselves over time within the city, it will eventually lead the cattle of the village towards us. Anyhow, first priority was the city. As long as things proceeded under my expectations, they wouldn't show an unfamiliar reaction to this rumor. As I was listing the order of what needed to happen, I injected mana back into the ring. And soon I heard Ahian's voice again. Hiya, Savior.nim, thank you, Hiya. It hasn't been long since I had disconnected the line, but it seemed she had returned to her original game. At this time, I was curious of this woman's personal life. Becca Hian, Sa.sa, Savior.nim. Wait, H. Sa, Savio, this is, Sob, so, I'm sorry, Sob, please kill me, Sob. Nothing consoling of the sort came into my mind. In the end. It's all right. I said this, which caused the girl to despair even more. I'm sorry, Sob. No, it truly is okay. Everyone has sexual desires. After saying this much, it seemed that the girl finally settled down and we were able to continue our conversation naturally. After I briefly explained my plan to her, Ahian's voice came into my mind. So we are entering the first phase of the plan. That is so. Okay. I understand. Everything will be done for Savior.nim. As such, after a prolonged conversation, I disconnected the line. Even I hadn't thought about this unexpected event would occur, as even I felt a little embarrassed. Funny enough, even I experienced a bit of sexual arousal. In the end, Heian, who was able to sense and smell this kind of sexual desire extremely well, entered my tent as I momentarily enjoyed a pleasant time with her. As if her pride was truly upset by the female troll, she clung on to me tighter, but since the difference between our species was great, I did not have to worry much. As such, time squirted by. During that time, I continued to alternately visit the first and second villages. By showing my appearance to them, I thought that it would help them lower their discomfort before the advent of the test. Of course, I didn't forget visiting Broken Bow as well at times. As much as I frequented the various groups, Hakugen became increasingly worried, but he was slowly becoming less cautious around me, as the female troll was full of anticipation in merging with the Blood Dagger clan. Of course, whenever I had left for the female troll's village, MEV and the 3 goblin sisters were not pleased at all. After each visit and returning with our fighting force, these women would hover near me while smelling to determine if I had shared my seed with the troll chief or not. Of course the captain won't be seduced by her. I was right. Seeing the 3 goblin sisters were pleased, I was a bit taken aback, but after soon seeing MEV's satisfied face, they started to settle down. I had naturally assumed that the green-skinned females would not harbor feelings of jealousy, but looking back at it again, it seemed their feelings were closer to infatuation than anything else. Of course, they probably were expressing it more so because of their discontent with the female troll, but I didn't necessarily dislike it, so it was fine. This was not the only change in the village. At some point in time, MEV and the 3 goblin sisters were having increased intimacy in conversing with Heian. Although Heian was in an ambiguous situation where she was neither a green skin or a human, she still would always play a critical role in our battles. There was the fact that many could not approach her due to her past as a human, but there were still some clan members that praised her for the contributions in battles. Nevertheless, even that was to an extent where the clan did not try and accost her. Even though they were still not as accepting as the other males in the village, MEV and the 3 sister goblins decided to look fairly upon Heian. The source of this was probably due to her idea of the Blood Dagger test. The fact that they might merge with the female troll's village, was like a thunderous calamity would rain down on them from the sky. As such, in order to oppose against this enemy, they had united as one. Even at this time, I did not cut communications with Heian as I continued to listen regarding the news over there. They had discovered a village of weak goblins inside the forest. In addition, a ranger's squad had taken a bite of his trap, and in the end discovered the location of a village without the help of any magicians. Whether or not Hakugen knew of this, I did not know. However, his village was currently a hot potato in the city of Legius. Of course it wasn't like there was a treasure, or even an opportunity to gain high experience for the elites, but that was rather a welcoming matter for us. Just from the summoned who were willing to get stronger, even they were enough to make the village feel a huge state of crisis. I was starting to anticipate how they'll react to this. As such, time had passed once more. Even now, I continued to frequent their villages. Though I wasn't visiting every day, but whenever I entered their villages, for some reason, I felt good. It was due to being recognized accordingly. In my human days, it was a kind of feeling that I had never experienced before. Of course, I was recognized in my tribe, but those looks of admiration aimed at me was the catharsis of all this. This was especially so when I was together with the female troll. There was a time when she directly tried to seduce me when I had come alone without the 3 goblin sisters and MEV, but after expressing my displeasure at her temptation, she would lightly flirt with me instead. I had never expected to be in the center of such temptation, but it felt good honestly. Whether she lightly rubbed her body against mine, or were revealing clothes that emphasized her thighs, chest and even her ass. It was close to that. Rather than a sign of, I want to sleep with you, I felt a greater sense of, I want to have a baby with a strong green skin like you, from her, but it did not matter. What was present was the revealing clothes that she was wearing. It was ambiguous to say her body was full of muscles, but she appeared truly strong. Her green skin looked closer to an azure color. Although that bust of hers was comparable to that of Heian's, her robust muscles and abs were here and there. Looking at her body broadly, her robust body came into mind, and even made me consider sleeping with her at times, but with the women back in the village, I could not move so easily. So, have you decided? Roughly, you could say I have, but, if you are worried of the fairy and the goblins, then do not worry, as I have advice to offer. This is a problem that should solely be decided by the chief. Of course, the opinions of subordinates are important, but because of my mistake back then, it seems that they dissatisfied with me. Your words are not necessarily wrong. The women definitely hold an unfavorable impression of you. I see. It's not an exaggeration. From what I had seen, I was worried about the mating problem in the Blood Dagger clan, which was why I broached the subject, but it seems that I have said something useless. Of course I am regretting it presently. You are correct. Because of that, Mivi bears a deep wound. I deeply apologize from the bottom of my heart. However, for the future of the clan, you need to be decisive in your choices. Of course, that selection does not purport to us. Yet, Blood Dagger needs to make a wise decision so that he will not regret it later. After talking with her for quite some time, it seemed that she was slowly trying to manipulate me covertly. Those were words that basically suggested I shouldn't listen to the opinions of the fairy and goblins, but that her advice alone was enough for me. By using the words, my choice, she was bonding herself closer to me. If it was Hark or Gark instead of me in this position, they would have 100% fallen under her trap. No doubts about it. Even being aware of this truth, I wanted to heed her advice. This woman is truly intelligent. Although she did indeed grow in a misguided way, she was basically a basket of sweets. As long as she does not raise an inner rebellion, she is a valuable contribution to the development of the clan. Although her advice was truly cheeky, my evaluation of her had risen even further. What is your name? My name is Regia. She was truly pleased, as she was smiling brightly. Since I was a bit drunk, I grabbed her chin and pulled her to my side. She wore a shy expression, but I knew that it was all for show. I smiled to her as I continued. Do not disappoint me. She probably doesn't know what this means. But seeing her nod excitedly, I dismissed her expectations by stroking her face. It wasn't like I was planning to end our conversation, but I had done this since I had felt someone coming this way from outside. Afterward, what a smart, seductive girl. Damn, I don't know which man would not fall for her temptation, haha. Note. The sponsored chapter for Green Skin will be uploaded in about an hour's time. Notice. Green Skin schedule has been updated. Releases will be made every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays exempt of sponsored chapters. Thank you.